Have you ever wondered what made the A-Team's van so special? I mean, beyond the fact that it could survive more explosions than a military bunker and somehow always had exactly the right equipment for whatever crazy plan Hannibal was cooking up? Well, buckle up, because we're about to take a deep dive into the mechanical marvel that was B.A. Baracus' 1983 GMC Vandura. And trust me, some of these facts are stranger than anything that happened in the show. Today we're counting down 20 weird facts about the most famous van in television history. So if you love it when a plan comes together, hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Number 20. The van was never supposed to be gray and black. Here's something that'll blow your mind right off the bat. The iconic gray and black color scheme that became synonymous with the A-Team. Total accident. The producers originally wanted the van to be all black, sleek, menacing, like something out of a spy movie. But when they went to paint it, they ran into a problem. The automotive paint they'd ordered was back-ordered for weeks. So the production designer, in a moment of desperation, grabbed whatever was available in the paint shop. That happened to be gray primer and black paint left over from another project. They slapped it on, thinking it was temporary. But when George Peppard saw it, he loved the two-tone look, said it made the van look more military, more tactical. The network executives agreed, and just like that, a paint shortage created one of the most recognizable vehicle color schemes in TV history. The funny part, they had to specially mix that exact shade of gray for every single van they used in the series. And yes, there were multiple vans, but we'll get to that. Number 19. B.A.'s red stripe was Mr. T's personal touch. You know that distinctive red stripe that runs along the side of the van? The one that became as iconic as the van itself? That wasn't in the original design, not even close. During the first day of filming the pilot, Mr. T looked at the van and shook his head. He walked over to the prop master and said, "This van needs something, it's too plain for B.A." The prop master thought he was joking. He wasn't. Mr. T grabbed a roll of red tape from the prop truck and started applying it himself, right there on set. The directors were freaking out because they were burning daylight, but Mr. T insisted. He said B.A. would want his ride to stand out, to have some personality. The stripe wasn't even straight at first. Mr. T had to redo it 3 times before he was satisfied, but once it was on, everyone agreed it completed the look. From that day forward, every single A-Team van had to have that exact red stripe. They even created a template to ensure it was applied in precisely the same place on each vehicle. Number 18. The van's interior was a Frankenstein creation walk inside the A-Team van, and you'd find surveillance equipment, weapons racks, communications gear, the works. But here's the weird part. None of that stuff was designed to work together. The interior was cobbled together from leftover props from at least 7 different canceled TV shows, the radio equipment, from a failed spy series called Codename Diamond Head, the computer monitors, salvaged from the set of Buck Rogers. The weapons racks were built for the greatest American hero but never used. Even the captain's chairs in the front were rejects from Knight Rider. They didn't fit in Caught. The production designer literally walked through the studio's prop warehouse with a shopping cart, grabbing anything that looked vaguely military or high-tech. They hot-glued, screwed, and welded it all into place. The surveillance monitor that B.A. used to watch their surroundings. It was actually a modified fish finder from a fishing show that got canceled. They just put a different screen overlay on it. The entire interior cost less than $2,000 to create, using nothing but rejected props. Yet, it looked like $1 million mobile command center. Number 17. The GMC logo caused legal headaches. This one's bizarre. GMC never officially sponsored the A-Team. In fact, they initially tried to stop the show from using their vans. See, the producers bought the vans from regular dealerships and modified them without GMC's permission. When GMC's lawyers saw the pilot episode, they sent a cease and desist letter. They were worried about liability if kids tried to recreate the van's stunts. The legal battle went on for 3 months. Finally, the show's producers came up with a compromise. They would keep the GMC badging, but add a disclaimer in tiny print during the credits that GMC didn't endorse or approve the vehicle modifications. But here's where it gets weird. After the show became a hit, GMC completely changed their tune. They started using images of the A-Team van in their own marketing materials, without permission from the show. This led to another legal battle, but this time in reverse. Eventually, both sides realized they were helping each other and called a truce. GMC even released a limited edition A-Team inspired paint package for the 1984 Vandura. Only 200 were made. They're worth a fortune today. Number 16. There were actually 6 different vans. Think there was just one A-Team van? Think again. The production used 6 different GMC Vanduras throughout the series run, and each one had a specific purpose. Van number 1 was the beauty van, used for close-ups and dialogue scenes. It had the most detailed interior, and the paint job was constantly touched up. Van number 2 was the stunt van. Reinforced frame, roll cage, the works. This thing could take a beating. Van number 3 was the jump van, stripped down to reduce weight with a specially modified suspension for those flying scenes. Van number 4 was interesting. It was the explosion van. They'd blow this one up, fix it, and blow it up again. By the end of the series, it was more Bondo than metal. Van number 5 was the backup beauty van, used when Van 1 was getting maintenance. And van number 6, that was the parts van. They'd cannibalize it whenever one of the other vans needed something. By the series finale, Van 6 was basically just a shell. The crew had a running joke that Van 6 was like an organ donor. It kept all the other vans alive. Number 15. The roof spoiler was functional, sort of. That distinctive roof spoiler on the van, everyone assumes it was just for looks. Wrong. It actually served a purpose, just not the one you'd think. The spoiler was originally added because the van kept overheating during desert shoots. The engine would run so hot that they'd have to stop filming every 30 minutes. The transportation coordinator had an idea. He installed that roof spoiler not for aerodynamics, but to create an air scoop that would force more air down onto the engine compartment. It actually worked. Sort of. The engine temperature dropped by about 15 degrees. Not much, but enough to keep filming. But here's the weird part. The spoiler created so much wind noise at highway speeds that they couldn't record dialogue when the van was moving. So they had to dub all the driving dialogue in post-production. Every single driving scene where the actors are talking, recorded later in a sound booth, the actors would sit in chairs, hold a steering wheel, and pretend to drive while watching the footage. Dwight Schultz later said it was the hardest part of filming because he'd get motion sick watching the screen while sitting still. Number 14. The van's weight broke 3 studio floors. After all the modifications, armor plating, and equipment, the A-Team van weighed nearly 8,000 pounds. That's twice what a stock Vandura weighed. This caused major problems. In Season 2, they were filming on a studio soundstage when the floor suddenly cracked. The van had been parked in the same spot for 3 days and the constant weight finally broke through. The repair cost $50,000 and delayed filming for a week. After that, the studio instituted a new rule. The van could only be parked on reinforced concrete, but that wasn't the end of the problems. In Season 3, they were filming in a parking garage when the van broke through again. This time it partially fell through to the level below. Nobody was hurt, but it took a crane to get it out. The third incident happened during the final season. The van was parked in a warehouse for a scene when the wooden floor started to buckle. They evacuated just in time before it collapsed completely. From then on, location scouts had to verify floor load capacity before the van could enter any building. Number 13. Mr. T couldn't actually drive it. Here's something the producers kept secret for years. Mr. T couldn't drive the modified van at all. He had a regular driver's license, but the van's modifications made it handle completely differently from a normal vehicle. The steering was so heavy from the armor plating that it took serious effort to turn. The brakes were upgraded, but super sensitive. And the blind spots were enormous. Mr. T tried to learn. He really did. He took driving lessons in the van for 2 weeks before filming started. But during his final test drive, he accidentally drove it through a catering tent. Nobody was hurt, but $30,000 worth of food was destroyed. After that, the producers made a decision. Mr. T would only drive in close-up shots where the van wasn't actually moving. For all the real driving scenes, a stunt driver wore a Mr. T wig and jewelry. They had 5 different stunt drivers who specialized in making the van do different things. One for jumps, one for slides, one for high-speed chases, and so on. Mr. T was actually relieved. He later admitted he was terrified of driving that tank and was happy to let the professionals handle it. Number 12. The turbine sound was from a vacuum cleaner. You know that distinctive whirring sound the van made when it was really moving? That high-pitched turbine noise that made it sound like a jet engine? Total fake. The actual van sounded like a van. Maybe a little louder due to the modifications, but nothing special. The sound effects team needed something more dramatic. They tried recording actual jet engines, but it was too much. Then they tried sports cars. Still not right. The breakthrough came when a sound engineer was cleaning the studio. He was using an industrial vacuum cleaner when he noticed it made an interesting sound when he covered the hose partially. He recorded it, played with the pitch and speed, and layered it with the actual van engine sound. Perfect, that vacuum cleaner sound effect was used in every single episode, but here's the really weird part. Fans loved the sound so much that several of them modified their own vans to try to recreate it. One guy in Texas actually installed a small jet turbine in his replica van just to make the sound. It worked, but the fuel consumption was insane. He could only run it for about 30 seconds before it drained the auxiliary tank. Number 11. The sliding door was deadly. That iconic sliding door that BA would throw open dramatically, it was legitimately dangerous. The door weighed over 200 pounds after all the armor plating and reinforcement. But the real problem was the spring-loaded mechanism they installed to make it slide faster for dramatic effect. It moved with such force that it could break bones. 3 different crew members were injured by it during the series run. One camera operator got his hand caught and broke 2 fingers. A grip got hit in the shoulder and was out for a week. The worst was when a guest actor didn't move fast enough during a scene and the door caught him in the ribs. Cracked 2 of them. After that incident, they installed a safety protocol. Only designated crew members could operate the door. Actors had to stand at least 3 feet away when it was in motion. They even painted a yellow line on the ground showing the danger zone. George Peppard refused to go near it after witnessing the second injury. In his scenes, they'd film him separately and edit it to look like he was by the door. The insurance company threatened to shut down production if there was one more door-related injury. Number 10. The famous wheels. Cost more than a car. Those iconic chrome wheels with the red center caps, each one cost $12,000. In 1983 money, that's more than most cars cost back then. But here's why. They weren't just wheels, they were custom forged from a special aluminum alloy that could handle the weight of the armored van. Regular wheels would literally crack under the stress. The company that made them, Centerline Wheels, had to create entirely new tooling just for this project. Each wheel took 40 hours to manufacture, but that's not the crazy part. The red center caps were the real problem. They had to match the red stripe exactly. The first batch came back too orange, the second batch was too dark. The third batch was perfect, but the paint kept chipping off during stunts. Finally, they had them anodized in red, which cost a fortune, but held up. By the end of the series, they'd gone through 14 complete sets of wheels. That's 56 wheels total. At $12,000 each, that's $672,000 just in wheels. The producers tried to use cheaper replicas in Season 4, but car enthusiasts wrote angry letters. They could tell the difference on screen, so they went back to the expensive ones. Number 9. The sunroof had a secret purpose. That sunroof on top of the van. It wasn't just for ventilation or looking cool, it was specifically installed for one weird reason. Dirk Benedict was claustrophobic. Severely claustrophobic. The first time he got in the van with all the equipment and other actors, he had a panic attack. He tried to push through it, but after 3 takes, he was sweating and shaking. The producers were about to recast the role when the transportation coordinator had an idea. Cut a hole in the roof. They installed a marine-grade sunroof that could open completely. Whenever Dirk felt claustrophobic, he'd pop his head out and get some air. It became such a regular thing that they wrote it into Face's character. That's why you'd sometimes see Face standing up through the sunroof for no apparent reason. He was actually fighting off panic attacks. The sunroof served another purpose too. The interior lights would overheat the van during long dialogue scenes. Opening the sunroof was the only way to cool it down. But in Season 3, they forgot to close it during a rain scene. The entire interior was soaked. The electronics were fried. It took 2 weeks and $30,000 to repair everything. Number 8, the horn played the A-Team theme. Sometimes. In Season 2, Episode 15, there's a scene where BA honks the horn and it plays a few notes of the A-Team theme. Fans went crazy trying to figure out if this was a regular feature they'd missed. It wasn't. Here's what happened. The regular horn broke during filming. The sound department needed a horn sound for the scene, but the closest auto parts store was an hour away. The sound engineer had an idea. He had a synthesizer in his truck that he used for creating effects. He quickly programmed it to play the theme song and wired it to the horn button. It was supposed to be temporary, just for that one scene. But when the producers heard it during dailies, they loved it. They wanted to make it permanent. There was just one problem. The synthesizer would crash constantly. It wasn't designed to be in a moving vehicle. They tried 3 different models, but the vibration from driving would always cause malfunctions. Eventually, they gave up. but they did sneak the theme horn into 2 more episodes. Both times it was added in post-production. The actual van never had a working theme song horn, despite what some replica builders claim. Number 7. The armor plating was real and illegal. The van's armor wasn't just Hollywood magic, they used real ballistic steel plates, the same kind used in armored cars, which was highly illegal for civilian vehicles in California. The producers got around this by claiming it was a movie prop and not a functional vehicle. But here's the thing, it absolutely was functional. The armor could stop most small arms fire. How do we know? Because they tested it. In the Nevada desert, away from prying eyes, they shot at one of the stunt vans with various weapons. The armor held up surprisingly well. 38 caliber bullets bounced right off. 9mm, no problem. Even some rifle rounds failed to penetrate. The crew was so impressed they started calling it the real BA van. But this created a massive problem. The California Highway Patrol got wind of the tests. They threatened to impound all the vans for being illegal armored vehicles. The producers had to sign documents swearing the armor was decorative only and would never be used on public roads. Of course, they drove them on public roads all the time. They just made sure to avoid CHP officers. One time a van broke down on the highway and they had to call a special tow truck. A regular one couldn't handle the armored weight. Number 6. The van started a black market parts ring by season. 3. Fans were so obsessed with the van that a black market emerged for parts, but not replica parts, actual parts stolen from the show. It started small. A crew member sold a center cap that had been damaged and replaced. He got $500 for it. Word spread. Soon, pieces were disappearing from the set regularly. Mirrors, door handles, even entire seats. The thefts got so bad that they had to hire security specifically for the vans. But the thieves got creative. One guy posed as a mechanic and stole the original steering wheel. Another dressed as a janitor and made off with the CB radio. The most brazen theft. Someone stole an entire sliding door during a location shoot, just unbolted it and drove off. The door later showed up on a replica van in Japan. The owner had paid $20,000 for it. The producers estimated they lost over $100,000 in stolen parts during the series run. They started marking everything with invisible UV ink, but it didn't stop the thefts. By the final season, they kept the vans in a locked, guarded warehouse between shoots. Even then, someone managed to steal the gear shift knob from van number 1. Number 5. Mr. T's jewelry scratched everything. Mr. T's signature jewelry wasn't just a character choice, it was a constant problem for the van. Those gold chains and rings scratched the hell out of everything they touched. The driver's door was the worst. By the end of season 1, it looked like it had been attacked by a wild animal. Just deep gouges everywhere from his chains dragging across it. The steering wheel was destroyed. The leather was completely worn through from his rings. They had to replace it 4 times during the series. The dashboard was another casualty. Mr. T had a habit of resting his hands on it during dialogue scenes. His rings left permanent marks in the plastic. The prop department tried everything. They put clear protective film on surfaces. Mr. T's chains cut right through it. They tried rubber coating. His rings wore it off. Finally, they gave up and just budgeted for constant repairs. But here's the funny part. When they auctioned off one of the vans after the series ended, collectors specifically wanted the one with all of Mr. T's scratch marks. They called it authentication. The scratched up van sold for 3 times more than the pristine one. Number 4. The van had its own insurance policy character. This is absolutely insane. The van was so important to the show that NBC actually insured it as if it were a cast member. Not the physical vans, those were insured normally, but the character of the van. If something happened that prevented the van from appearing on screen, the production could claim lost revenue. The policy cost $50,000 per season. The insurance company classified the van as a non-human performer, the same category used for famous animal actors. It even had its own call sheet designation. The actors were numbered 1 through 4. The van was number 5. This led to some hilarious situations. When van number 2 was damaged in a stunt, they had to file an injury report for a vehicle. The insurance adjuster didn't know how to process it. Was the van conscious when the accident occurred? Was an actual question on the form. The policy paid out twice during the series. Once when all the vans were unavailable due to repairs, forcing them to shut down production. And once when van number 1 was stolen, though it was recovered 2 days later in Mexico. The thief was apparently trying to start his own A-team. Number 3, the van's engine was swapped every season. Here's something even hardcore fans don't know. The van never kept the same engine for more than 1 season. Not because they broke, but because of product placement deals. Season 1 had a modified 350 small block. Season 2 got a 454 big block from Chevrolet, who paid for the placement. Season 3 saw a return to the 350, but this time with a turbocharger from a company called Turbonetics. Season 4 got the wildest swap, a diesel engine from Detroit Diesel. They wanted to show their engines could be performance motors too. Each swap required massive modifications, new motor mounts, new transmission in some cases, entirely different cooling systems. The diesel was the worst. It was so loud they couldn't record any dialogue when it was running. But here's the weird part. The performance actually got worse with each swap. The original 350 was the fastest and most reliable. The diesel was so slow they had to speed up the film for chase scenes. The crew hated the constant swaps, but the money from the engine companies helped fund the show's expensive stunts. So they kept swapping. By the series finale, the mechanics joked that the van had an identity crisis. Number 2, the van caused an international incident. In 1985, the show filmed some establishing shots in Mexico without proper permits. They just drove van number 3 across the border and started filming. Mexican police saw the armored van with weapons visible through the windows and assumed it was a real military vehicle. American military vehicle operating illegally in Mexico. They surrounded the van with armed officers. The crew tried to explain it was for a TV show, but the armor plating made the cops more suspicious. The situation escalated. The Mexican military was called. Soon, there were soldiers pointing rifles at a fake TV van, while the confused crew tried to show them scripts and production documents. It took 6 hours and calls to the American embassy to resolve. The Mexican government was not amused. They banned the A-Team from filming in Mexico. NBC had to pay a $50,000 fine. The US State Department actually had to issue a formal apology. The incident made international news, but we're in. TV van nearly starts war was an actual headline. After that, the vans needed special documentation to cross any border. They had to prove the weapons were fake and the armor was non-functional, even though it wasn't. Number 1, a real military unit tried to buy the van. Here's the absolute weirdest fact about the A-Team van. In 1986, the US Army Special Forces contacted the producers about purchasing the van design. Not as a joke, they were dead serious. A unit at Fort Bragg had been using A-Team episodes for unconventional warfare training. They analyzed the tactics, the modifications, the equipment placement, and they decided the van's internal layout was actually brilliant for a light urban assault vehicle. They wanted to build real military versions. The meeting was surreal. Army engineers sat with Hollywood prop makers discussing armor placement and weapons storage. The military was particularly interested in the surveillance setup and the modular interior that could be reconfigured quickly. They offered $200,000 for the complete design specs and the right to produce military versions. The producers were stunned. They explained that half the stuff was fake and held together with gaffer tape. The Army didn't care. They said Hollywood had accidentally designed a better urban combat vehicle than most military contractors. The deal ultimately fell through due to legal complications. Universal owned the van's likeness and wouldn't sell military production rights. But somewhere in military archives, there's apparently still a file labeled Project A-Team Van with detailed analysis of how to militarize a GMC Vandura. The weapons were fake, the armor was technically illegal, and the surveillance gear was mostly old TV parts. But for 4 seasons, that van was as much a part of the team as Hannibal, Face, BA, and Murdoch. And there you have it. That's 20 weird facts about BA's 1983 GMC Vandura van that made the A-Team complete. I don't know about you, but I'll never look at that van the same way again. From Mr. T's jewelry destroying everything to the Mexican government thinking it was an invasion, this van had more adventures off-screen than on. Which of these facts surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you love it when a plan comes together, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite shows and movies. Hit that notification bell, and I'll see you next time.